The garden was bathed in a soft golden light, the spring flowers swaying gently in the breeze. Birds sang cheerful melodies, their songs blending with the rustling of leaves in the trees. It was 1960, and in this secluded corner of the world, a wedding was taking place, promising a love that would last a lifetime. Evelyn, in her simple yet elegant white dress, walked down the garden path, each step reflecting the serenity and happiness she felt at that moment. Arthur, her beloved, awaited her at the end, a smile illuminating his face, full of devotion. His eyes, brimming with love and hope, never left her. The ceremony, though modest, was overflowing with love. Close friends and family surrounded the couple, sharing in the joy that seemed to weave the air with threads of magic. Beneath a clear blue sky, Evelyn and Arthur spoke their vows. "We will always be together no matter what," they said, their voices resonating with a certainty that transcended words. After the ceremony, the reception became a whirlwind of laughter and dancing, a celebration that seemed to stretch on forever. Night fell slowly, enveloping the garden in an embrace of stars and whispers. Evelyn and Arthur retired to a small, cozy inn, where they would spend their first night as husband and wife. In the warmth of the room, with the fireplace crackling softly, Evelyn felt the depth of Arthur's love. His caresses and tender words were promises of a future filled with happiness. The night passed in a blend of sweetness and tenderness, where each moment etched itself into Evelyn's memory as a priceless treasure. However, fate had other plans. The following morning, as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the window, Evelyn awoke with a sense of unease. She turned to her side and noticed Arthur's bed was empty. Initially, she assumed he'd gone to prepare a surprise, something typical of his thoughtful and loving nature. She rose calmly, thinking perhaps he had gone to fetch breakfast or for an early morning stroll to enjoy the fresh air. Hours passed, and Evelyn's unease transformed into worry. She searched the small inn, calling his name, but Arthur was nowhere to be found. Her heart pounded in her chest as a sense of despair began to settle in. It was then that she decided to venture out and search for him in the nearby village. She walked the cobblestone streets, asking the few passers-by if they had seen her husband. No one seemed to have encountered him that morning, furthering her anxiety. She returned to the inn, clinging to the hope of finding him there, waiting for her with a reasonable explanation. However, upon entering their room, the reality of his absence became even more palpable. Desperation mounting, she began to search every corner, every drawer, looking for any clue that might indicate where Arthur could be. It was then that she found a note tucked away in the drawer of the bedside table, written in Arthur's familiar, shaky handwriting. The letter was brief, but its contents chilled her to the bone. "Forgive me, my love. I had to leave. I will always love you," it read. Evelyn collapsed onto the bed, her mind racing in 1,000 directions. She reread the note again and again, hoping to find some hidden clue within Arthur's words. But there was nothing more than those lines, laden with a pain and urgency she couldn't fathom. She sat on the bed, clutching the note to her chest, feeling despair solidifying into an overwhelming reality. With tears streaming down her face, she decided she couldn't remain idle. Evelyn's desperate search for her beloved began in that instant. She alerted the authorities, and the small community mobilized to aid her, but no trace of Arthur was found. With each passing day, the hope of finding him slowly dwindled, leaving Evelyn with a void that seemed insurmountable. Friends and family tried to offer solace, but words of comfort couldn't reach the depth of her sorrow. Evelyn's life, which promised to be a journey of love and companionship, transformed into a labyrinth of uncertainty and sleepless nights. The letter left by Arthur became her only remaining link to him, a mystery she held close to her heart, rereading it in moments of solitude, hoping to unearth some hidden meaning. The mystery of Arthur's disappearance enveloped Evelyn in a cloud of uncertainty and unanswered questions. Why did he leave? What could have happened to make him take such drastic action? Evelyn's mind conjured up dark scenarios and terrifying possibilities, but no concrete answers emerged. The feeling of his absent presence lingered in every corner of their home, in every sympathetic glance from loved ones, only deepening her pain. Weeks turned into months, and the search for Arthur yielded no results. The authorities, exhausted and lacking concrete leads, began to scale back their efforts, leaving Evelyn in a state of despair and abandonment. Each day without news of her beloved felt like an eternity, and the void in her heart grew deeper. One morning, while attempting to go about her daily routine to distract herself, Evelyn began to experience waves of nausea and dizziness. At first, she dismissed it as stress and accumulated anguish. But as the symptoms persisted, she decided to visit the doctor. The news left her astonished. She was pregnant. The revelation was a ray of light amidst her emotional turmoil, yet also a new source of sorrow. "Arthur, if only you were here to share this joy with me," Evelyn thought, tears welling up in her eyes. The news of her pregnancy brought with it a complex mix of emotions. On the one hand, there was the joy of carrying a part of Arthur within her, and on the other, the profound sadness of facing this journey alone. The following months were a constant challenge. Every time she felt the baby's move within her womb, a pang of loss washed over her. Evelyn clung to the memories of Arthur, seeking solace in the solitary nights. She would spend hours talking to the babies, telling them stories about their father, a man who, despite being absent, was an omnipresent figure in their lives. The day of the delivery arrived on a stormy night, mirroring the emotional tumult Evelyn felt. Thunder roared in the dark sky, and lightning briefly illuminated the room, casting dancing shadows on the walls. With each contraction, her mind went back to Arthur, wishing he were by her side, holding her hand, giving her strength in those moments of intense pain. She recalled his soft words, his caresses, and his unconditional love, and questioned why fate had separated them in such a cruel way. Finally, after hours of pain and effort, William and Sophia were born. The baby's first cries echoed through the room, mingling with the sounds of the storm. Their small faces were a reflection of Arthur, a constant reminder of the man she loved and missed so deeply. Upon seeing them, Evelyn felt a wave of emotions wash over her, overwhelming in their intensity. She held William and Sophia in her arms, their hearts beating softly against her chest. As she held her children for the first time, Evelyn felt a mixture of overwhelming love and heartbreaking sorrow. "Arthur, our children are here. I wish you could see them," she whispered, gently kissing the foreheads of the newborns. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with the sweat of exertion. Motherhood transformed her in that very instant, giving her a renewed reason to live and to fight. Their small hearts beating against hers, their tiny hands grasping at her fingers, filled her with an unexpected strength, yet also added another layer to her grief. Each time she looked at William and Sophia, she saw Arthur's eyes, his smile, his very essence. She wondered what it would have been like to see Arthur hold his children, to share those moments of joy and wonder with him. Arthur's absence felt more acute than ever, like an open wound that refused to heal. But Evelyn knew she had to be strong, not just for herself, but for her children. The first few weeks with the twins were a test of endurance. Evelyn faced sleepless nights, constant feedings, and the incessant cries of her babies, all while grappling with Arthur's absence. Every smile from William, every curious look from Sophia brought joy, but also a poignant reminder of their father's absence. Evelyn dedicated herself entirely to her children, showering them with love and care. Over time, she found strength in her role as a mother, seeing in William and Sophia an extension of Arthur. She told them stories about their father, painting him as a courageous and loving man. "Your father always wanted the best for us," she would say, striving to keep Arthur's memory alive in their hearts. Years passed, and Evelyn's life revolved around her children, William and Sophia. The absence of Arthur remained a persistent shadow, but Evelyn found in her children a reason to keep going. William and Sophia grew up surrounded by love and dedication, each reflecting aspects of their father that Evelyn had always cherished. Every birthday of the twins was a bittersweet occasion for Evelyn. She saw the reflection of Arthur in their faces, in their smiles and their inquisitive eyes. She celebrated them with enthusiasm, yet in her heart she felt the ache of Arthur's absence. In the quiet of the night, when the house was still, Evelyn would find herself reminiscing about the moments they never had as a complete family. Each year the void seemed to grow deeper, yet her resolve to raise her children with love and strength never wavered. One such night, while talking to an old friend, Evelyn heard a story that disturbed her inner peace. They were sitting in the living room, the dim light of the lamp casting soft shadows on the walls. The crackling of the fire in the fireplace accompanied the murmur of their conversation. "My cousin also lost her husband on their wedding day," her friend said, taking a sip of tea. Evelyn, who had been listening intently, felt a chill run down her spine. Years later, her friend continued, she discovered that he had run off with another woman. The words echoed in Evelyn's mind like a mournful bell, planting a seed of doubt and disbelief. What if Arthur wasn't the man she thought he was? What if there was a more mundane, more painful reason for his disappearance? She remained silent, her mind reeling with questions and anxieties. "Can you imagine?" her friend added, her gaze full of sympathy. "To think you know someone so well, and then to discover they had been lying to you all along." "That must have been devastating for your cousin," Evelyn responded, trying to keep her voice steady. But inside, an emotional storm was brewing. "It was," her friend agreed. She was never the same, always wondering how she hadn't seen the signs, how she could have been so blind. After her friend left, Evelyn sat alone in the living room, the flickering flames from the fireplace reflecting in her tear-filled eyes. Uncertainty gnawed at her. She tried to push the thoughts away, but the questions lingered, echoing in her mind like a persistent hum. Had Arthur left her for another woman? Had everything they shared been a lie? That night, as she lay in the empty bed she once shared with Arthur, doubts tormented her. She tossed and turned, unable to find solace. She replayed every moment, every touch, every promise. "How could he do this to me?" she whispered into the darkness, her voice breaking. In the days that followed, Evelyn's anxiety didn't subside. Each time she looked at her children, William and Sophia, she felt a knot in her stomach. She tried her best not to let her children see her turmoil. She continued to tell them stories about their father, painting him as the hero she had always believed him to be. But now those stories were also a comfort to her, a way to hold on to the image of Arthur she wanted to preserve. Time marched on, and the years stole Evelyn's youth. But they didn't steal her doubts or her pain. 50 years after Arthur's disappearance, Evelyn still searched for answers. Despite the advances in technology and the help of her children, she had never found a concrete clue about her husband's whereabouts. One spring morning, as Evelyn basked in the sunshine in her garden, a young woman knocked on her door. With slow but steady steps, Evelyn made her way to the entrance, wondering who it could be. As she opened the door, she came face to face with a woman in her 30s, her expression a mixture of respect and excitement. "Evelyn?" the woman asked, her voice trembling slightly. "My name is Alice. I'm a historian, and I've been researching your husband, Arthur." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She had been waiting for this moment for decades, and now that it was here, she didn't know how to react. "Please come in," she said, opening the door wider. Alice entered, clutching a bulky package. "I found these letters and documents that belong to Arthur," she explained as they settled into the living room. "I believe they hold the answers you've been seeking." With trembling hands, Evelyn took the package and began to open it. Inside were several letters, all written in Arthur's unmistakable handwriting. The first letter began to unravel a truth that Evelyn had never imagined. "Arthur was a brilliant scientist," Alice began, her eyes shining with a mixture of respect and sadness. During the 50s, he made a discovery that could have changed the course of history. He discovered a compound that, in the wrong hands, could be turned into a devastating weapon. This compound had the ability to alter the molecular structure of any material, creating a chain reaction that could obliterate entire cities. Evelyn, her hands shaking, unfolded one of the letters and began to read aloud. Each word penned by Arthur seemed to come to life before her eyes. "Forgive me, my love," the letter began, imbued with a palpable sadness. "I had to leave you to protect you and the world. I knew that if the Soviet government discovered my research, they would endanger everyone. The pressure on me was immense, and I feared our life together would be destroyed by forces beyond our control." Alice watched silently as Evelyn continued reading. "I knew the only way to keep you safe was to disappear," the letter continued, revealing Arthur's inner turmoil. "Every day without you has been hell, but the thought that you are safe has given me the strength to go on. I have been living in anonymity, hidden away on a remote island, writing these letters to you, hoping that one day you will read them and understand my decision." Evelyn looked up from the letter, her eyes filled with tears. "He did it for us," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "He sacrificed himself to keep us safe." Alice nodded, touched by the rawness of the moment. Arthur knew that his discovery, if it fell into the wrong hands, could trigger a global catastrophe. The Soviets would stop at nothing to obtain it. So, with a heavy heart, he chose to disappear. The letter went on to describe Arthur's solitary life on the island, surrounded by the endless ocean and the starlit sky. "Every night, I look at the stars and wonder if you are looking at them too," Arthur had written. "Though we are separated by distance, I want you to know that my love for you has never diminished. Every day without you is a struggle, but I do it for our future for the future of humanity. Evelyn sobbed softly, tears falling onto the aged paper. He always thought of us, even in his solitude. Alice placed a comforting hand on Evelyn's shoulder. His love and his sacrifice were immense. He wanted to ensure that his discovery wouldn't be used to cause harm. He knew that his only option was to go into hiding and keep his work a secret, away from those who would use it for evil. Alice's words hung in the silent room, filling the space with an air of reverence and admiration. Evelyn was overwhelmed by the magnitude of Arthur's sacrifice, but she also found solace in his unwavering love. Arthur had lived with the constant threat of being discovered, his life in a perpetual state of vigilance. "Every time I hear a plane fly over the island, my heart skips a beat," he had written. "I fear they have come for me, that they have discovered my hiding place. But every day that I remain undiscovered is a victory. One more day that I can protect you and the world from this danger." The last lines of the letter were the hardest to read. "If you are ever reading this, I want you to know that I love you beyond words. My only wish is that you find happiness and peace, even if I cannot be by your side. I will always be with you, in spirit and in the stars we gaze upon together." Evelyn closed her eyes, allowing the tears to flow freely. "I love you, Arthur," she whispered. "I will always love you." Evelyn felt a mixture of relief and sorrow as she read the letters. On the one hand, she felt comforted knowing that Arthur had never abandoned her for another woman. On the other hand, the sacrifice and loneliness he had endured on that island filled her with sadness. "What happened to him?" Evelyn asked, her voice barely a whisper. Alice lowered her gaze. "Unfortunately, the Soviets eventually found him," she said softly. "They captured him and tried to force him to replicate his discovery. Arthur refused, and in his defiance, he was killed." The impact of those words left Evelyn breathless. Tears streamed freely down her cheeks as she clutched Arthur's letters. The revelation of his ultimate fate was devastating, yet it also gave her a sense of closure that she had been seeking her entire life. "He always loved you," Alice said, placing a comforting hand over Evelyn's. "And his sacrifice wasn't in vain. His discovery never fell into the wrong hands, thanks to his bravery." After Alice left, Evelyn remained in the living room, surrounded by the letters and documents that had revealed Arthur's true story. Feelings of relief and sorrow intertwined within her, creating an emotional storm that was difficult to navigate. With every word she read, she felt a deeper connection to Arthur, but also a sharper pang of grief for the life they never had the chance to share. She decided to gather her family that very night. William and Sophia arrived, their concern evident as they noticed the urgency in their mother's voice when she called. As they entered the living room, they found Evelyn sitting by the fireplace. Arthur's letters carefully laid out on the table. "Mother?" "What is it?" William asked, his voice a mixture of worry and curiosity. "I want to share with you the truth about your father," Evelyn said, her voice trembling slightly. "I have received these letters that Arthur wrote all those years ago. The story they tell is more incredible and heartbreaking than I could have ever imagined." William and Sophia sat down beside their mother, their gazes fixed on the letters. Evelyn began to read aloud, her voice thick with emotion and unshed tears. With each word, the true nature of Arthur's sacrifice became clearer. She told them how Arthur had discovered a compound that could be weaponized, how he had chosen to disappear to protect them, and how he had lived in solitude, writing letters he could never send. As Evelyn read, tears streamed down her cheeks. Sophia took her mother's hand, her own eyes welling up. William, moved by the magnitude of his father's sacrifice, felt a wave of pride and sadness wash over him. "Dad did all this for us," Sophia said softly, her voice breaking. "I always thought he abandoned us, but now I understand how much he loved us." William nodded, speechless. Shame washed over him for doubting his father for so many years. "I'm sorry, Mother," he finally said, his voice heavy with regret. "I always thought he left us, but I was wrong. He was a hero." Evelyn pulled her children into an embrace, feeling the weight of years of doubt and pain slowly begin to lift. "His sacrifice was for us, for the world," she said, tears of pride glistening in her eyes. "Never doubt your father's love." The family decided that though they could never recover Arthur's remains, they should honor his memory in a tangible way. William suggested erecting a tombstone in his honor, a place where they could go to remember and celebrate his life and sacrifice. Sophia agreed, feeling it was the least they could do to pay tribute to their father. The following day, they gathered at the local cemetery. Under a gray, overcast sky, they chose a quiet, serene spot surrounded by trees. The wind whispered through the branches, creating an atmosphere of peace and reflection. With the help of a local sculptor, they designed a simple yet meaningful headstone, engraved with the words, "Arthur, a husband, a father, a hero. His sacrifice will not be forgotten." On the day of the headstone's unveiling, the family gathered around the monument. Evelyn, holding a single white rose, stepped forward and gently laid it upon the cool stone. "Arthur," she whispered, "we love you and will never forget you." William and Sophia stepped forward, each with a flower, and placed them beside their mothers. Tears flowed freely as they embraced, finding solace in their unity and the love they shared. As they stood there, they recalled the words from Arthur's letters, his promises of eternal love, and his courage in the face of adversity. Although the pain of his loss would never fully disappear, they found strength in his sacrifice and in the certainty that his love had been true and profound. "Father, your legacy lives on in us," William said, his voice strong despite the tears. "We promise to carry on and honor your memory." Sophia nodded, holding on to her mother's hand. "We carry you in our hearts, always," she whispered, her voice filled with love and determination. The grey sky began to clear, and a ray of sunshine illuminated the headstone, as if a symbol of hope and renewal. The family lingered for a while longer, sharing stories and memories of Arthur, feeling a sense of peace they hadn't known in many years. Upon returning home, Evelyn, William and Sophia began brainstorming how they could further honor Arthur's legacy in a more meaningful and lasting way. It was then that the idea arose to establish a foundation in his name, dedicated to supporting scientific research and promoting ethical practices in science, principles that Arthur had defended with his life. Gathered in their living room, the family discussed the initial steps to establish the Arthur Foundation. William, with his background as a scientist, understood the importance of ethical research and the need for funding innovative projects. Sophia, with her experience in social work, knew how to mobilize the community and garner support for worthy causes. "We have to do this for Dad," William said, his voice firm and resolute. He always believed in the power of science for the greater good. If we can help other scientists follow his principles, his sacrifice won't have been in vain. "I agree," Sophia responded. "And we can share his story with the world, inspiring others to act with courage and integrity." Evelyn, watching her children, felt a surge of pride. "Let's do it," she said, tears of determination welling up in her eyes. "We'll make Arthur proud." They began by seeking funding and partnerships with various scientific and educational organizations. William reached out to his colleagues in academia and the industry, explaining the mission of the Arthur Foundation. Sophia, in turn, dedicated herself to organizing community events and reaching out to potential donors. The first few months were a whirlwind of activity. The family worked tirelessly to establish the foundation, drafting proposals and meeting with potential sponsors. Thanks to their dedication and Arthur's moving story, they soon secured the necessary funds to begin their operations. The Arthur Foundation's first project was to fund a series of grants for young scientists who were committed to upholding ethical principles in their research. They also organized workshops and seminars on scientific ethics, inviting experts to share their knowledge and experiences. Evelyn attended every event, sharing Arthur's story with the attendees. Each time she spoke about her husband, she felt his legacy come alive. "Arthur always believed in the power of science to improve our lives," she would say. "But he also knew that without ethics, science could become a threat. We want to ensure that future generations of scientists will follow his principles." Arthur's story soon became a source of inspiration for many. Local and national media outlets began taking interest in the Arthur Foundation and its mission. Evelyn, William, and Sophia were invited to give interviews and participate in television and radio programs, where they shared Arthur's story of sacrifice and bravery. "We want the world to know who Arthur was and why he did what he did," Sophia explained during an interview. "His story is not just about a brilliant scientist, but about a man who put the well-being of humanity before his own life." The public response was overwhelming. People from all walks of life were moved by Arthur's story and began donating to the foundation, ensuring that its mission could continue and expand. Over time, the Arthur Foundation grew from strength to strength. More scientists and students joined the cause, dedicated to ethics and innovation in science. New partnerships with universities and research centers allowed them to expand their grant programs and seminars internationally. Evelyn, despite her advancing age, remained the heart and soul of the foundation. Seeing the impact of the Arthur Foundation on the lives of young scientists and the advancement of ethical research gave her immense satisfaction. "This is what Arthur would have wanted," she would often say. "His legacy lives on in each of these young scientists working to make the world a better place." William and Sophia, in turn, ensured that the foundation remained true to their father's principles. They oversaw every project and worked closely with the grant recipients, guaranteeing that they adhered to the high standards of ethics and dedication that Arthur had upheld. As the Arthur Foundation solidified its place as a respected force in the scientific community, the family also found a newfound peace and purpose. Through their work, they felt they were keeping Arthur's memory alive and continuing his mission to better the world through science and ethics. At a special ceremony to commemorate the Foundation's 5th anniversary, Evelyn, William, and Sophia gathered with grant recipients and collaborators of the Arthur Foundation. Evelyn took to the stage, her eyes shimmering with tears of gratitude and pride. "Today, we honor not only the memory of Arthur, but also the incredible work of all of you," she said, looking out at the audience. "Thank you for believing in this mission and for carrying forward the legacy of a man who gave everything for the well-being of humanity." The applause was deafening, and Evelyn felt that finally they had found a way to give meaning to Arthur's loss. Although they could never recover the years lost, they had found a way to transform their grief into a positive and lasting impact. Evelyn nodded slowly, absorbing the magnitude of Arthur's sacrifice. "Thank you, Alice," she finally said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for bringing me these letters. Now I understand why he did what he did." Alice smiled sadly. "It was my duty. His story deserves to be known. His love and sacrifice should be remembered." With the letters in her hand, Evelyn felt closer to Arthur than ever before. Despite the years of pain and confusion, she now understood the depth of his love and the reason for his sacrifice. Arthur hadn't abandoned her. He had given his life to protect her and to protect the world. Years passed, and time inevitably left its mark on Evelyn. Her frail body could no longer withstand the weight of her years. However, her spirit remained strong, fueled by her enduring love for Nalanta and the pride she felt for the accomplishments of her children, William and Sophia. The day of her passing arrived on a tranquil autumn afternoon. Evelyn, surrounded by her loving family, knew that her final moments were near. She lay in her bed, in her home, where she had built so many memories despite the absence and trials that life had thrown her way. William and Sophia were by her side, holding her hands tenderly. "Mother," Sophia whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "you have been our rock. Everything we've achieved is thanks to you and Dad's example." Evelyn smiled weakly, her eyes shining with tears of pride and love. "I have lived a full life," she said softly. "Arthur would be as proud of you as I am. Keep his memory alive and keep working towards a better world." William, fighting back tears, nodded. "We promise to carry on, Mother. The Arthur Foundation will continue to grow and help so many more, just as he would have wanted." With those words, Evelyn closed her eyes for the last time, surrounded by the love of her family. Her final breath was one of peace and contentment, knowing that her life had left an enduring mark on those she loved most. The family decided that the best place for Evelyn to rest would be alongside Arthur in the small cemetery where they had erected the headstone in his honor. The funeral was an intimate and emotional ceremony, filled with memories and promises to carry on the legacy of love and sacrifice that they had left behind. After Evelyn's passing, William and Sophia dedicated themselves to continuing the work their parents had begun. The leadership of the Arthur Foundation fell to them, and with the same passion and commitment, they worked to expand and strengthen its activities. "We're going to make sure that every project, every grant, and every research endeavor upholds the principles our parents stood for," Sophia stated during a board meeting of the foundation. "Their legacy must endure and continue to inspire generations to come." William, for his part, continued to collaborate closely with scientists from all over the world, ensuring that the values of ethics and responsibility that Arthur championed remained at the core of every initiative supported by the foundation. The Arthur Foundation flourished, gaining international recognition and support. Its grant programs and initiatives in science ethics education expanded globally, reaching more countries and communities. The foundation became a beacon of hope and an example of how science and ethics could work hand in hand for the greater good. At an international congress on science and ethics, William was invited to deliver a keynote address about the impact of the Arthur Foundation. "My father, Arthur, believed deeply in the power of science to improve our lives," William began. "But he also understood that without ethics, science can be dangerous. His sacrifice was an act of love and responsibility, and our work at the Foundation is to honor his memory and ensure that his vision lives on." The story of Arthur and Evelyn became a source of inspiration to many. In universities and research centers, their tale was told as an example of integrity and courage. Books and documentaries chronicled their lives and sacrifice, and every new scientific discovery made under the aegis of the Arthur Foundation carried a piece of their legacy. At a conference on ethics in science, Sophia shared her parents' story with an audience of young scientists. "My parents, Arthur and Evelyn, taught us that the true value of science lies not only in its discoveries, but in how those discoveries are used for the benefit of all," she said. "Their love and sacrifice are the foundation of everything we do at the Arthur Foundation." Throughout the years, the family continued to honor the memory of Arthur and Evelyn, ensuring that their values and vision were passed on to each new generation. Every grantee, every researcher who received support from the Arthur Foundation knew the story of love and sacrifice from which the foundation was born. On the anniversary of the dedication of Arthur's headstone, the family once again gathered at the small cemetery. The headstone now bore Evelyn's name as well, and together, their names told a story of enduring love and sacrifice. William, Sophia, and their children stood in silence, remembering their grandparents. "They will always be with us," William said, his voice filled with emotion. "Their legacy lives on in each of us and in all the work we do. And we will continue to tell their story," Sophia added, a soft smile gracing her lips, "so that the power of love and science, when guided by ethics and responsibility, will never be forgotten." The sun began to set, bathing the headstone in a golden glow. The family lingered, lost in a moment of reflection and gratitude, knowing that Arthur and Evelyn's love would always guide them, and that their legacy would continue to inspire many more for years to come. The story of Arthur and Evelyn is a profoundly moving narrative, highlighting the power of love, sacrifice, and integrity. Evelyn's journey, from the despair of Arthur's disappearance to the establishment and growth of the Arthur Foundation alongside her children, shows extraordinary strength and resilience. The revelation of Arthur's selfless act, leaving everything behind to protect his family and the world, adds another layer of depth and heroism to his character. Evelyn's struggle to keep Arthur's memory alive and her commitment to moving forward for the sake of her children illustrates the importance of family and legacy. Her children, William and Sophia, embody their parents' values, carrying on the mission of the Arthur Foundation with dedication and ethics. The most powerful message embedded in this story lies in the idea that true love and true greatness are found in selfless sacrifice for the greater good. Arthur was not only a brilliant scientist, but also a man whose integrity and love transcended the boundaries of time and space. The story teaches us that ethics and love can change the world, leaving a lasting legacy for generations to come. If you found the characters' journeys inspiring, give us a like and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to discover more uplifting stories that highlight the power of connection and human kindness. Thanks for watching.